Hey, welcome back. I have to finish talking about this book I read called Three Body Problem. I finished it, but it turns out that there's two more books in the series, which I didn't know. So, like, the book ends and you're like, wait, this is the end? But there's two more books. Um, I liked it. I have to, wait, hold on. I gotta concentrate here. Okay, don't shoot that thing yet. And okay. Wait till you're here. And then do it. Okay. Then do this one. Then do this one. Okay, go. Okay, good. I guess I'm gonna spoil the whole thing. So, sorry about that. That's just what I do. It's weird. It feels like there's nothing much really happens in the book until the end. But it's still interesting to read. I don't know. I liked it. Let me sit up on my feet so my feet can fall asleep. There's a couple cool ideas I guess I didn't want to talk too long about it, but the book is just about you don't know this until the end, but the book is about this alien civilization. They live in a world with 3 suns, so that are kind of close. I guess they kind of orbit around the 3 suns, and the 3 suns are like kind of flying everywhere. And so the civilization keeps getting destroyed because sometimes one of the all 3 of the suns will be really close, and then the planet will just explode from heat. And then sometimes they'll be really far away and they'll get super cold. So Earth finds out about them. How do they find out about the 3 body? Some kind of radio, like the story takes place in China with some scientists, and they have like a radio transmission thing. I'm not going to explain the whole book because it's pretty long and it's pretty complicated, and I don't even like remember most of it, but this is a couple ideas that I thought were pretty cool. The guy who wrote the book seemed like really smart, smarter than me, obviously, but like he knows sciencey stuff. It seemed to, I mean, I don't know anything about it, but like it seemed to be like, oh, that kind of makes sense. I never thought about that. The coolest idea, okay, to me was this. So there's the alien planet's called Tri-Solaris because they got 3 suns. And they Earth contacts them, and then one of the people on Tri-Solaris contacts Earth back, is like, don't contact us again, like, we're gonna invade you. You got lucky, like, I'm just like a weird pacifist on this planet, but like, we're brutal and we'll kill all your people, like, don't come here. But then the people on Earth have like this interesting political thing where the people on Earth are like, well, we don't think we're doing a very good job here, so we're just gonna take our chances. So the person in charge of contacting Tri-Solaris does it anyway, even though like she kind of takes it into her own hands. That's good. So then we like go to the people on Tri-Solaris, and they're having a conversation like, well, the guy who sent the message gets caught. The guy who sent the message to say like, hey, don't come here, he gets caught, and then they kind of interrogate him like, you are a bad person. And then the Tri-Solaris people kind of come off as like these villains because they live in a world where they're constantly like having to survive, so they can't, what the guy says is like, they don't have time for love and art and creativity or whatever. but the evil people in charge of Trisolaris are like, oh, we don't care. We just need to survive, and we need a good planet. We're gonna take over their planet. The problem with the Trisolaris people... Oops. What's happening here? What if I do my magic cape? And he can't see me. Right? Oh no, he can still see me. Ah. What's happening? How do I do this? It takes 400 years for the Trisolaris people to get to... I don't know what to do. Oh. That's stupid. To get to Earth. So what the Trisolaris people are like, oh, like, Earth is a perfect place for us, but by the time we get there, they might have like super nuclear weapons, and they might be more powerful than us because... it's hard to do this because I'm like explaining all the cool stuff in the book in like 10 minutes, which you can't do because it's like a long, cool book. He was saying it took 50,000 years for humans to get to the agricultural age or whatever, and then it took them 3,000 years to get to the industrial age, and then it took them 100 years to get to the information age. So he's like, they're progressing exponentially, and we're progressing linearly because every like 100 years a sun comes and explodes everything, and we have to start over again. So by the time we get there, their technology will be better than ours. So while our technology is better, we have to figure out how to slow them down somehow. And that was the most interesting thing, because I'm like, how are they going to do that? There's no way this like author's going to think of an interesting way to do that. But he did, and it's cool. And it might not make any sense scientifically, but it was a really cool idea. What he did was, they called it a proton lock. And they spent like 3 chapters explaining this thing and like the experiment with the protons. It's really cool. AI protons sent to disrupt particle accelerators so we can't make Okay, so the basis... So, am I done for the day? No. I don't know where to go. I need a key. But I went everywhere. So the basis for this argument is that particle accelerators will unlock the next big advancement in technology, because we'll learn about... They keep talking about, like, the Trisolarans have knowledge of 11 dimensions, and they know kind of how to, like, manipulate 11 dimensions. And obviously, people on Earth, we don't know how to do that, so we're weaker because we don't know how to do that stuff. So that's kind of all based on that. And so he says the particle accelerators are going to show them how to manipulate the higher dimensions so that they can make like super weapons or whatever and fight us. Like super atomic bombs or something. Which, I don't know, makes sense to me. I read Flatland. Have I ever talked about Flatland? That's like one of my favorite, like, weird books I've ever read. It's very weird, but it's cool. It's about shapes that live in the second dimension, but then they get visited from a third dimensional being. But the second dimensional beings have this, like, society of, like, oh, squares are the lowest sect, and the more points you have, the higher you are in society. So like circles are like the gods of the rulers. It's very weird. I'm like, I don't know, I liked it a lot. It was cool. But yeah, him explaining the 11 dimensions just reminded me of that. just gonna do this and see what happens. So the proton lock. I never explained the proton lock. So, yeah, I don't know if this makes any sense. But so what they did is, this is gonna take a ton of brain power. So I'm just gonna end, and then I'll figure out where to go tomorrow. They take a proton. So they say that a proton in our third dimension is actually 11-dimensional object. That's why it's so small. So the scientists, because they have knowledge of the 11 dimensions, they can unfold the proton and make it a 2-dimensional object or a 3-dimensional object. Instead of an 11, I guess the idea is that everything that we see is actually an 11-dimensional object, but we can only see in 3 dimensions, or we can only experience 3 dimensions. So a proton is an 11-dimensional object, and when they unfold it, it becomes bigger. I don't know if any of this is true, but it might be. I don't, yeah. So when you unfold it into a 10-dimensional object, it becomes bigger. It's still only 3 dimensions that we can see, but now it's a 10-dimensional object. So then you make it a 9-dimensional and a 8. So they make it, I don't know if I'm remembering this right, sorry, but what they do is they make it a 2-dimensional object, or a 1-dimensional, and they're like, don't make it a 0-dimensional, because that'll create a black hole. That's kind of a cool idea. They make it a 2-dimensional object, and so it's like a huge ring around their planet, because it's so big. That's kind of cool, like a proton is like huge. And they turn the proton into an AI ship, because now it's bigger, they can like add a bunch of stuff onto it or whatever. And then once it's an AI machine and like they programmed it the way they wanted to, they crumple it back up to a proton and they shoot it at Earth. So now, and they can give the proton like directions on what to do. So they're like, okay, they shoot it at Earth, and then it's a really funny idea, but it makes sense. And the humans even know what they're doing, and they can't stop it. So the protons go into the particle accelerators, and they mess up the experiments. So now the humans, they never know if their experiments are correct or not, or what information they're getting, because the protons are like, they're deflecting other protons and they're hitting things that they're not supposed to. And they've created a bunch, so like they're like, oh, even if the humans create 1 billion particle accelerators, we can make 1 million of these things and just keep shooting them at them. And I don't know. So now the humans can't. We can make it like, we can only work with what we have. They made a comparison of like, well, before they had like computers, they couldn't process a certain amount of information. So like before we had knowledge of an 11 dimensions, we can only build with what we have in 3 dimensions. And that's never going to be better than what they have. So we'll just make better stuff, but it won't, we're going to hit a plateau that we can't cross. So in 400 years, they can come here and kill us. And that's kind of where the book ends. So what happens? Do they come? It's a pretty cool idea. So yeah, that's why it's kind of hard to talk about that book, because that was like one concept in the book, and it just took me like 20 minutes to try to talk about it. But I liked it. It's fun. It's written well. Characters aren't that interesting, but just like the way he explains the science, and like he's explaining like theoretical physics and stuff and quantum physics, but he's explaining it in a way that's like makes sense to like an idiot like me. where another thing that, like, I know these kind of buzzwords like quantum entanglement, and then he kind of explains how it works in like a really simple way. Like, the guy who wrote the book is super smart. He's like, the people on Trisolaris are like, wait, how are we going to communicate with the AI if it's 400 light years away? And he's like, well, we'll keep protons here that are quantum entangled to the other proton. And I've heard this before, but like, if subatomic particles are quantum entangled, they can communicate instantly their spin. This is like super theoretical stuff, like way out of my field, but like the way he explains it makes sense. So the spin of one proton can communicate with the spin of a proton 400 light years away instantly because they're quantum entangled. So all we have to do to communicate with the proton on Earth is to spin like, okay, yes. All we have to do is program like, okay, a spin like this is yes and a spin like this is no. And then we can program like a binary system into the AI to be like, yes, no, yes, yes, no, no, no. And then it'll do what we say. And we can control it from 400 light years away. If it starts like, we could program it, but like if it starts doing weird stuff, we can change it and we can have it create other protons or whatever. But that's too much. Okay. I liked that. It presented kind of boring, like when I took physics classes and stuff, I'm like, I don't like this stuff. But he presents it in a way that's like, ooh, this is cool. Actually practical. He practically used quantum entanglement in like an engaging way to explain like aliens and like to create a suspense or in a book, which is pretty, like, nobody's ever done that before. I don't know. Maybe that's not true, but I feel like I can pretty confidently say nobody's ever used quantum entanglement as like a plot device in a book. So whatever. I'll see you tomorrow. Bye.